It started with a plate of cookies, fresh from the oven, still warm. My mother had wrapped them in a tea towel, the kind with stitched blue lines like she always used, and carried them in with both hands like she was afraid to drop a memory. She smiled when she placed them on the table. That soft, wrinkled smile she'd worn since Jake was 3. Since the first time he clung to her legs and called her Granny. Mouth sticky from the same cookies, she now held out like a peace offering. "Just like you like them," she said. Her voice was gentle. Too gentle. Jake looked up from his phone, glanced at the plate, then at her. And that's when he said it. "Stop acting like a grandma." Then he laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not embarrassed or flustered. This laugh was clean, sharp, performed. The kind of laugh boys used to flex their teeth in front of a girlfriend sitting nearby. He didn't flinch when he said it. He didn't even realize what he'd done. That's what made it worse. Even the dog went silent. My mother stood still, her hand half raised, like she didn't know if she was still welcome in the room, like she had just been told, politely and with a joke, that she was no longer family. Erin didn't say anything. She never did when it counted. Her eyes dropped to her plate like she hadn't heard a thing. I looked at Jake, and he smiled at me. A smug, quick smirk. Like he wanted me to laugh too. Like it was all just a harmless joke among people who belonged to each other. But it wasn't harmless. And not all of us belonged. I didn't speak. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an apology or tell him to show respect. That moment had passed. The cookies were cooling on the table, untouched. My mother stood there like a portrait in a house that no longer recognized its walls. So I stood up. I walked out of the room, past the silence, past the years of pretending, into the office I had built with my own hands. I closed the door behind me and sat at the desk, opened my laptop, and logged into the bank portal. Jake's name was right there on the college fund account. I had started it when he was 10. Little deposits at first. Just enough to matter. Birthday money, tax returns, whatever I could carve out from the jobs I juggled. Double shifts, contract work, freelance gigs that bled into the night. All of it for his future, because that's what you do when you love a child. Even when he's not yours by blood. Especially then. His real father had disappeared before Jake could form a sentence. Todd was a ghost in name only. No cards, no calls, no support. Just a dusty box of silence Erin never liked to open. I stepped in, filled the gap, filled the role. I fed him, clothed him, taught him to ride a bike. I was the one who brought him to his first dentist appointment, who stayed up when he had the flu, who clapped the loudest at every school play, even when he only had one line. My mother was part of that effort, too. Maybe even more than me. She was there after school when Erin worked late. She made him hot chocolate on snow days, knitted him socks every Christmas even when he said he didn't like wool. She remembered his teachers' names, his favorite cereal, the way he liked his sandwiches cut. She did it all without needing to be asked. We were a family, or so I thought. But that night, the night of the cookies, something snapped. Something I had held together with unspoken rules, with sacrifices I didn't count out loud, finally cracked. It wasn't just what he said. It was what it revealed. Jake hadn't just insulted my mother. He had erased her, reduced her to a stranger bringing snacks. A servant in the home she had helped build. In the home I had built, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, while everyone else took comfort without cost. I stared at the screen in front of me. The numbers in the account glowed quietly, like they were waiting for a verdict. This is what love looks like, I thought. Line items and deposits and silent loyalty. I moved the mouse, clicked on Manage Account. Then I paused. Not because I doubted, but because I finally saw it clearly. I had been funding a life that no longer included me. I had become the invisible architect of someone else's comfort. The man behind the curtain, respected only in absence, needed only when something broke. I canceled the next transfer. I didn't drain the account. Not yet. I didn't write a letter or bang on the table demanding respect. That would have been easier, cleaner. But I've learned that betrayal doesn't always arrive in fire. Sometimes it's a quiet laugh across the dinner table while your mother stands there, holding cookies, trying to remember what it used to feel like to be called family. I didn't tell Erin. What would be the point? She'd tell me Jake didn't mean it, that he was tired, that he's 18 trying to look cool, that he's just joking, just being a boy. But boys who joke like that grow into men who believe they never have to pay what they owe. The next morning, my mother didn't come by. She texted me, short, polite, said she had errands, that she was feeling off. I knew what that meant. She wouldn't say it. She would never make me choose between her and Erin's son. But I could hear it in her silence. She had been dismissed, erased with a laugh, and I had let it happen. That was the first crack, the one that split the rest wide open. But I didn't speak of it. Not yet. I just watched. Jake went back to his phone. Erin went back to her silence. The dog lay under the table, still as a shadow. And the cookies, now cold, sat untouched on a plate no one had the decency to throw away. I should have stopped the car the moment I saw his expression. Jake stood at the curb, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his hoodie pulled up to hide the headphones clamped around his ears. His girlfriend, Emma, or Emily, or whatever name he'd never bothered to introduce, stood beside him, giggling at something on her phone. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He didn't even look up. Parked. Erin insisted on having him home for the weekend. It's important we stay close, she said, especially now that he's off at college. Stay close. As if we were some tightly knit tribe instead of a house full of polite silence and selective hearing. As if all it would take was a warm meal and a few shared stories to pretend none of it had fractured. He slid into the back seat without a word. Emma didn't come. She waved and walked off, and Jake didn't watch her leave. His eyes were locked on his phone, thumbs moving fast, body angled like I was an Uber driver. Not the man who had paid for every meal, every supply run, every tank of gas between here and the campus he now called home. We drove in silence. Erin asked him about classes. He grunted. My mother was in the passenger seat. She had offered to make his favorite casserole, because she still believed in recipes that healed. She turned around to smile at him. We missed you, sweetheart. Jake didn't respond. At dinner, he didn't even sit next to her. We gathered at the table, me, Erin, my mother, and Jake, who barely looked up. My mother served him first, like she always did. Scooped out the cheesy potatoes, the glazed carrots, the roast she'd started before dawn. Her hands trembled slightly as she passed him the plate. She still tried, still believed. That's when she said it. Come on, sweetheart. Put that phone down and talk to us. Her voice was soft, inviting, not demanding. She smiled again, hopeful. Jake didn't smile back. He looked up, scoffed, and said it. You're not my grandma. Stop pretending. It wasn't loud. It wasn't shouted. It was casual, cruel, and final. He went back to his phone, like he hadn't just shattered something fragile and old, like he hadn't just confirmed everything I feared in one offhand sentence. My mother's hand dropped to her lap. Her fork clinked against the plate. She didn't look at me. Her eyes were downcast, but I saw the way her throat moved as she swallowed the insult. Not the food. Erin didn't speak. I stared at Jake, the boy I had raised, the boy who once sobbed when my mother left after babysitting, the boy who used to make her cards in crayon and write Granny, I love you so much with 8 O's and backward letters. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who wore cruelty like a second skin. I didn't speak at dinner. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the plate or demand an apology. I waited. That night, after Erin had fallen asleep and Jake was in the spare room upstairs, I went into my office, and I started canceling things. First, the phone line. I had paid for it since he was 13. Unlimited data, newest model every 2 years. I froze the account, cut the service, and flagged it for eventual termination. Next, his debit card. The one tied to the joint account I opened in his name. Paid for his food, his rideshares, his textbooks. I locked it. No warning. His car insurance. Paused. Streaming services? Gone. College meal plan? Cancelled. Rent transfer? Stopped. Every financial thread he had depended on, Every hidden hand that had kept him warm and fed and mobile, I began to cut. Not with anger, with precision. I drafted a letter to the bank, certified, notarized, stating my intention to suspend all co-signed responsibilities until further notice. I included statements, every transaction I had ever covered on his behalf, every late-night emergency Venmo, every quiet favor. Then I printed it, put it in an envelope, sealed it. The silence in that room was perfect, cold, cleansing. Jake came back downstairs the next morning with the phone in his hand, waving it like a broken toy. Why isn't this working? I didn't look up from my coffee. Did you pay the bill? I asked. He blinked. You always pay it. I shrugged. You're in college. That makes you an adult, doesn't it? He stared. Not angry yet, just confused. Erin entered the room and froze, sensing something she couldn't quite name. Then Jake opened the fridge, pulled out his favorite orange juice, and poured a glass. It had my mother's label on it, handwritten in black Sharpie. Jake's. Don't drink. Smiley face. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did. Maybe it just didn't matter. Later that day, the debit card declined at the gas station. Then again at the bookstore. By evening, he was furious. He burst into my office, red-faced. Are you serious? I didn't flinch. I handed him the folder. Inside were the bank statements, the cancellation letters, the paused payments. I had printed it all. No digital trail. No deniability. He flipped through it, disbelief spreading across his face. You can't do this. I met his eyes. I already did. This is insane. I leaned back. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it's pretty simple. You think you can disrespect the people who raised you and still collect the rewards. But respect isn't optional. You're cutting me off because of one comment? I shook my head. Not one. Not anymore. That was just the last one I'm willing to hear. He paced, slammed the folder on the desk. Mom! He shouted. Did you know about this? Erin came to the door, her face pale, her voice thin. I didn't know. Michael. I didn't let her finish. Don't. Not now. You let him say it. Jake turned to me again. This is abuse. I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. No, Jake. This is boundaries. The kind real adults learn. If you want independence, you earn it. If you want support, you show respect. You can't have one without the other. He stormed out. The house was heavy that night. My mother didn't come by again. Erin moved around me like I was a stranger in the bed we shared. But something in me had settled. For the first time in years, I felt like I was no longer begging to be seen. Jake called Todd that night. I heard the call. Short, tense, ending in silence. The next day, he drove back to school. But not before leaving behind his car keys. I had taken the registration papers from the glove box, transferred the title back to me. It was never his. Not really. And now he'd have to earn it if he wanted it back. The silence lasted longer than I expected. 3 days. Not a word. No texts. No calls. No tantrum. Just absence, clean and deliberate. Erin said nothing, but I could see the tightness in her jaw. The way she stared at her phone longer than usual, hoping for a message that would soften the edges. My mother didn't ask for updates. She didn't visit. She baked a pie, left it on our porch, and drove away before the door opened. The note on top read, "For you, not him." On the 4th night, the knock came. Soft, hesitant. Not the kind of knock Jake used to make when he barged in from school, demanding snacks or asking for the car keys. This was different. Humble, almost. I opened the door. He stood there, backpack slung low, hoodie zipped to the chin, eyes red like he hadn't slept. He didn't step inside. He didn't smile. He just looked at me. "I messed up," he muttered. "I shouldn't have said that to her." I waited. I wanted to seem cool. In front of Emma. His voice cracked. She was watching. I thought it would be funny. I nodded once. It wasn't. He lowered his head. I know. Silence again. The weight of it heavier than anything else in the room. You didn't just say it, I told him. You meant it. He winced. But, I continued, if you're serious about fixing this, I'll help you. But no more handouts. That ended the night you decided she wasn't your grandmother. He nodded slowly. Okay, what do I need to do? And that was the moment it shifted. Not the apology, not the tears that came later, but that question. What do I need to do? Not give me back what you owe. Not you can't do this to me, but a genuine request for terms. I told him to sit. We laid it out on the table. Like a business deal because that's what it had become. A broken contract rebuilt with conditions. I'd cover the rest of his college, after he proved he could manage it. Step 1, a written budget. Everything itemized. Tuition, rent, books, groceries, transportation. No vague requests. No, I just need a little extra. Real numbers, real receipts. Step 2, a job. Part-time. On campus or nearby. Minimum 15 hours a week. I didn't care if it was washing dishes or restocking shelves. He needed to learn what hours felt like. Step 3, grade reports. Monthly. If he slipped below a B average, funding paused until it recovered. He needed to prove school wasn't just a vacation from adulthood. Step 4, rent contribution. I reinstated his car insurance, but he had to pay $50 a month. A token, maybe, but tokens matter when they're your own. Credit card? Closed. He would build a new one with a secured line in his name, tied to his job. If he missed a payment, the consequences were his alone. He didn't argue. That surprised me. He nodded after every step, asked quiet questions, took notes on his phone. He didn't try to negotiate, didn't scoff, didn't pretend to be offended. That was new. That was something. Then I handed him the final piece. You'll apologize to her, I said. But not because I tell you to. Not because it's part of the deal. You'll do it because it's the right thing. And if you're not ready, don't fake it. He swallowed. Okay. No script, I added. No dramatics. Just truth. Okay. He stayed the night. Not in the spare room. Not in his old bed. He asked to sleep on the couch. Said it didn't feel right otherwise. Aaron watched him from the hallway, eyes glossy, caught between pride and something heavier. Shame, maybe. Guilt for all the years she let him drift farther than he should have. The next morning, he asked if my mother would be home. I said yes. He didn't ask me to go with him. He walked the 6 blocks alone. I don't know what he said to her. But when he came back an hour later, his face was wet, his eyes swollen. He didn't speak, just nodded once and went to his car, where he sat for 10 minutes in silence before starting the engine. Later, my mother called. He cried, she said, like he meant it. I asked if she believed him. She paused. I want to, and for her that was enough. Over the next few weeks, Jake kept his promises. Budget sent. Job secured at a bookstore near campus. Hours logged. First check, he showed me the stub. Grades solid. He emailed me screenshots without being asked. There were missteps, missed texts, an overdraft warning, a forgotten password to the budgeting app. But each time he owned it. Each time he fixed it himself. We spoke more. Not often. Not warmly. But more. He started asking instead of assuming. Thanking instead of demanding. He even asked if he could bring Emma by one weekend, not to show off but to apologize. I said yes. When they came, he introduced her to my mother first. Grandma, he said, this is Emma. The word hung in the air for a second, thick with weight. My mother smiled, slow and steady. Nice to meet you, sweetheart. Emma smiled too, nervous, respectful. And when they left, my mother pulled me aside. He's still learning, she whispered. But I see the boy I knew. He's still in there. So I nodded, because I had started to see it too. Not the old Jake, the boy who needed everything and gave nothing, but someone new. Someone building. Someone trying. Trying counts. And sometimes the first step toward building character is closing a credit card. 2 months passed. Not a dramatic change. No fireworks. Just slow, deliberate movement in the right direction. like a ship correcting course after drifting too long in the wrong waters. We had dinner again. Just us this time, Aaron, Jake, my mother, and me. No girlfriends, no noise, no distractions. The same kitchen, the same table, the same soft overhead light that always flickered once before settling. It was a Tuesday. The night felt normal, peaceful even. Jake arrived early. Not on time, early. He offered to help set the table. Carried groceries from the car without being asked. When Aaron forgot to grab something from the fridge, he got it for her. Quiet, unspoken gestures. Nothing loud. Nothing performative. My mother was slow that night, her hip bothering her again. Jake noticed. When she winced as she sat down, he stood up. "I'll get it, Grandma," he said, walking over to the kettle. Her eyes blinked at that word. Grandma. Like she wasn't sure she'd heard it right. Like maybe it had slipped out by accident. But he repeated it as he handed her the cup of tea. "Here you go, Grandma." And then he smiled. It wasn't forced. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't the smile he wore at 17 when he needed gas money. It was honest, earnest, small but solid. A foundation, maybe. She reached for his hand with her good one. "Thank you, my grandson," she said. Just that. Nothing else. But in that moment the world tilted a little. I watched them. The boy who once spat bitterness across a plate of roast potatoes now leaning into a title he had once rejected. The woman he had once called a pretender now calling him hers. And me, sitting beside them, no longer invisible. No longer holding the weight of the family alone. Erin didn't say much. She watched too. Her eyes wet, but she didn't let the tears fall. Not in front of him, but I knew what they meant. We ate together. No arguments. No phones on the table. No muttered sarcasm. Jake asked about my work. I asked about his classes. He shared a funny story from the bookstore where he worked. Something about a customer trying to return a textbook from 1994. He laughed at his own joke. So did my mother. I didn't laugh. Not because it wasn't funny, but because I was holding on to the moment like it was porcelain, afraid any sudden move would shatter it. After dinner, he cleared the plates. Not just his. All of them. When he left, he hugged my mother. Hugged Erin. Then me. Not a handshake. Not a shoulder bump. A hug. He held it for just a second longer than he used to. No words. Just the pressure of arms around shoulders that once carried his whole life. Then he left. And the house was quiet again. But not empty. Not cold. Not broken. Later that night, I stood in my office, staring at the college fund account. Still paused. I could reinstate it now. There was trust again, at least enough to try. But I didn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't about money. It never really was. It was about worth. About showing up. About respect earned and not demanded. And Jake was earning it, inch by inch. The next week, my mother showed me a note he had sent her. Handwritten. Not typed. Not texted. "Dear Grandma, I'm sorry it took me so long to remember what you've always been to me. Thank you for everything. Love, Jake." She folded it gently, like it was fragile. I asked her if she forgave him. She didn't answer, but she started knitting him another sweater. That told me more than any word ever could. I've thought about that moment often. The plate of cookies, the laugh, the dismissal, and how that one casual cruelty set off everything that followed. People like to believe family is unconditional. That love, once declared, becomes a permanent shelter. But it isn't. Love without respect is just dependency. Family without character is just proximity. I carried this family for years. Not for glory. Not for recognition. But because someone had to. Because someone always has to. I never asked to replace Todd. I never asked Jake to call me Dad. I just wanted to be seen. Acknowledged. Not by blood but by effort. Now I know the truth. We build family one action at a time. Not in names. Not in titles. But in who shows up when the storm hits. In who apologizes when they hurt someone. In who stops taking and starts giving. Jake is still learning. Still failing sometimes. Still rough at the edges. But he's walking the path. So am I. There's peace in that. Not the kind that sings or celebrates, but the kind that holds you steady in a storm. And if you're lucky, maybe one day you sit at a table where someone who once laughed at your mother now hands her tea with both hands and says, "I love you," with more than words. Maybe that's enough. Or maybe it has to be. So here I am, years later, asking you, whoever reads this, whoever listens, whoever still believes in the power of names and obligations, was I wrong to draw the line? Was I cruel to demand respect before generosity? Or did I finally do the one thing every parent, real or chosen, has to do? Did I teach him? Would you have endured it? Or would you have closed the door too?